wake up with a smile, and then in a while come to lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies. Lunch with the ladies.
Welcome to the LIBBY Show, Lunch with the Ladies. On this episode, we welcome Maybin Sherman. Get ready to find out about her marvelous life from her beginnings as a dancer in New York City to her road trip to LA with her screenwriter husband. You'll find out about raising Amy Sherman Palladino, her Hollywood life, and her surprising secret to longevity. And get ready to play Maybin or Maisel. So let's have lunch with the ladies.
Well, we love game shows. We've only done one, but we realize they're an awful lot of fun to do, and we hope you'll play along. So because we have a terrific inspirational guest coming on, Miss Maybin Sherman, we're going to play a little game, Maybin or Maisel. So let's start. So everyone's prepared. I'm going to start, just give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, and let's figure out if this was something in the life of Maybin Sherman, who is the mother of the creator of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, or if it was something that just her daughter Amy, or daughter Amy's husband Daniel, wrote into the show. First thing is, she slept on the floor in Carnegie Hall in New York City. What do you think? Maybin, you are all correct. Yes, she did.
Oh, we got lucky.
Yes, yes. Yep. And perhaps she'll talk about that. Second question is, she did a nightclub show with Sammy Davis Jr.
Maybin.
Maisel.
Maybin.
The answer is Maybin. And when we talk to her, you'll find out about some of the other people she did shows with. Okay, the next one is, she wore a lot of cool hats.
Maisel.
Maisel.
Yes, yes. In fact, I had asked Maybin if she wore a lot of hats, and she said no. Definitely a Maisel thing.
Mm.
Okay, here's another one. She sold Tupperware to make ends meet.
Maisel.
Maisel.
Yes, definitely Maisel. Definitely Maisel. Okay, another one. She did a show in the Poconos.
That was Maisel.
Maisel.
No, it's actually Maybin. Trick question. Maybin did a show in the Poconos. Maisel did shows in the Catskills.
That's it.
Oh,
right.
that's right.
That was a good
was
one.
it-
You're
that was-
tricky.
Yes,
I
yeah.
Yeah.
put a lot of thought into
You
this.
notice we all fell for it.
Yeah.
We're gullible. Okay.
Next question. Her husband grew up in the Bronx.
Maybin.
Maybin?
Yes, Maybin. Yes. And the last question is, she performed for the military.
Maisel.
Maisel.
This is a trick question. Maisel
Ah.
and Maybin. When Maybin was young down in the South, she performed for the Army. So both of them. So, well, that was
Wow.
fun. I can't wait to speak to Maybin.
Well,
Thank
we
you,
really
ladies.
knew the show well, didn't we, ladies?
Yeah, we have to hear more about what she's done.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ileana, will you introduce our guest today?
happily. At the age of 91, Maybin Sherman is still tap dancing her way into the hearts of anyone who sees her. With a long, star-studded career, an actor and dancer from New York to LA, Maybin is a force to be reckoned with. A role model for anyone in any industry. The exuberance and energy she is indicative of the extraordinary, fulfilling life that she has led. From a young girl in Mississippi to the wife of a comedian in LA to the mother of the creator of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Maybin Sherman is an inspiration and example of doing what you love and walking through every door. She said that This Joint is Jumping, her latest show that she wrote and produced, will probably be her last, but frankly, I'm not so sure about that. Please join me in welcoming the marvelous Mrs. Maybin.
Well, I hardly know what to say. I think I wrote it myself. It was beautiful. Thank you.
I'm going to start with a question for you, Maybin. And I don't know where to begin actually, because there's so much to ask. I've interviewed you for my site.
91 years of questions. 91 years of questions.
90, that's right.
Yeah.
So I do want to start with some questions. You've had such a long life. Let's see how much of that we can cover so that people get a glimpse of the real Maybin Sherman. And I'm going to start with, you grew up in Mississippi. Tell me how you got started in showbiz, and tell me how your mother influenced this.
Okay, I was born in New Orleans, and really, even though I only lived there 5 years, my mother told me that with all the Dixieland bands going, that even when I was in the crib, I was going to the music. So I was born with the music in my soul. Unfortunately, we moved to Mississippi, and we lived there until I finally left. In when I was 15 years old, I went to New York and started studying. My mother put me on the Greyhound bus in Mississippi, and I got off in New York, and I lived in Carnegie Hall. And I took every class that they offered all day long, from 10 o'clock in the morning till 9 o'clock at night. And I slept in Carnegie Hall. Well, it was a little eerie and very spooky, and it was really a terrific shock, a culture change at 15 years old. But I must say, there was just something that was leading me, just leading me about whatever happens with fate. And I came back every summer after that to study. I got a job in New Orleans when I was 16 years old, singing with the Dixieland band. And the funny story is, there was a talent contest, and the prize was this job. Well, I won the talent contest, and I said to my mother, I can't take this job. I'm only 16 years old, and we don't even live here anymore because we live in Mississippi. And she said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll put you up at the Y, and you can take the streetcar to work. And that's what I did. At 16 years old, I was singing with a Dixieland band. And that was really my first professional job. And when I graduated from Gulf Park College, which was a school for young ladies, I to New York quickly. And because the culture shock is quite different living in the South and living in New York. And
It is.
yeah, well, yes, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we don't need to go there, I guess, but I sure could. Anyhow, I got into my first Broadway show, which was Pal Joey. And I was with that show for about a year. And then I moved into the Rehearsal Club. Do you know what the Rehearsal Club is? Oh, it's a fabulous place. It's a place for young ladies who want to be in show business. And most of the people were not, didn't have professional jobs yet. They were auditioning and studying. A few people were the higher echelons, because a few of them were in Broadway shows. Anyhow, it got to be the most wonderful experience I ever had, because all of a sudden I have people that have goals similar to myself, and we're all being knocked down and picked up and knocked down and so forth, as it is in starting out in the business. But it was just wonderful, because I had so many wonderful friends. And that was the first time in my life that I really felt that I was where I belong. So that was the beginning, up until the point that I got into Pal Joey. And then I was working all the time after that. Once you get into a Broadway show, I guess it's easier,
I'm so curious, what was show business like in New York City at the time? And tell us about some of the places you went to, the shows you were in, the people you met.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know how it is now because I've been living out here in California because I had, when I met my husband, he got signed to the Steve Allen show, which had moved out to California. And so we just picked up and moved out to California. Well, I had a 6-month-old baby. And we got in a convertible. And the guy who sold us the convertible said, I don't think you should take this car. I think you should have a station wagon. And we said, oh no, we're going to California. We want to arrive in a convertible. Well, the car broke down about 5 times before we finally got to New York, to California. And the whole thing that got me through, I have this strange way of dealing with tragedy. I just leave where I am. I go someplace else. So in my head, I'm thinking, everything is going to be wonderful. When I get there, I'm going to divorce my husband. Not to get the thing that you change the tire with. What is that, Mitch?
Jack.
A jack. Yeah. He forgot to get the jack, and we're out in Oklahoma, and there's nothing, and we have a flat tire and a convertible and a baby
And no jack.
and no jack. And so that was really kind of the turning point. I figured, how could I marry a man who could not remember to carry a jack? But as it happened, we got to California. As a matter of fact, we did get our ticket the minute we hit the freeway because we had a carry-all that we were bringing all our stuff with. We were like gypsies, leaving the big city and going out to the promised land.
I'm picturing the Beverly Hills, but Beverly Hills hillbillies or whatever.
Yes,
but a little more upscale.
Well, hardly, almost. We had the convertible, but they had a different car, I think. But anyhow, that was our introduction to. And also when we got to California, Don's manager had made reservations for us to go into this apartment building on Sunset Strip. And we walked, and we were so exhausted and so tired. And we walked into the lobby, and there the man was to meet us. And he saw the baby, and he says, "No babies here. We don't have any babies here." Well, he saw we were either going to kill him or we were going to pass out on the floor. So he allowed us to stay one night because we had the baby. He broke the rule for one baby. And the next day, we found a place across the street that would allow babies. But we finally moved into the San Fernando Valley because they have lots of babies there. And we felt right at home. So that was my beginning from leaving New York to going to California. And I became mama. Unfortunately, we lost our little girl. When she was 3 years old, she developed a brain tumor.
Oh, dear.
And life kind of stopped. And I guess it stops forever, very special little child, just very, very special. If she had lived, I'm sure she would have been really something. A few years later, Amy was born. And in the process of wheeling her to the doctors and everything, we always took Amy with us. And the little girl would stop anybody and say, "That's my sister Amy. That's my sister Amy." So that was in our life, and look, everybody has something in their life. Unfortunately, we don't get a free ride. But anyhow, because I wasn't in show business anymore, I was out here in California, and show business is so different in California than it is. I mean, first of all, you have to be like 16 years old and gorgeous like Marilyn Monroe, or else they don't even look at you. And I was 30 something by that time, and I was just groomed in the theater, and there was very little knowledge of the Broadway theater out here. It was television and movies and stuff. Anyhow, so I started I took Amy to see Peter Pan. Peter Pan was playing at one of the big theaters out here. And we brought one of the kids with us from the neighborhood. And all of a sudden they said, oh, we want to do that. We want to be Peter Pan. And I said, well, we can't do Peter Pan because I have no flying equipment here. But my daughter Amy said to me, well, I want to learn to tap dance. I said, well, I'll teach you to tap dance, but invite the neighborhood because I'm not teaching you alone. And that started the Children's Workshop Theater, which lasted about 30 years.
Beth, you have a question about that, right?
Absolutely. And if anyone watching doesn't know, her Maybin's daughter, Amy Sherman Palladino, is the creator of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. And she would follow you in your footsteps, and you were a working mom. How do you think that influenced her? Did that lead to this career?
Well, she grew up in a show business family.
Mm-hmm.
And she heard all these stories that my husband who was exceptional. He was also a writer. He wrote a lot of television shows, Barney and things, and Love Boat and things like that. So he would be writing shows as well as performing as a comedian. Of course, in New York, he was strictly a comedian. He worked at Catskill Mountains and all those places, you know. But out in California, it was different because it was television. Everything was television. So when we started the Children's Theater, we didn't do Mary Had a Little Lamb. We wrote original shows. We would write one of the shows that we wrote that I was very naive about because I didn't know the rules was a love affair between Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse. And she would say, I've been going with you for 40 years and my tail is turning gray. And she would, and then they sing this song, Where Would You Be Without Me? So that's kind of the way we did the children's theater, you know. It was just, and I took ideas from the kids and we would do improv scenes and stuff, and we would write stuff. Well, she turned out to be one heck of a writer. I remember one time we were doing some show and I needed a scene where I needed, this kid had a situation with this kid. And I said, and I want them to get together and do something like this. And she come with me with a piece of paper from a lunch pail or a lunch wrapper or something. And there would be the scene.
Oh, wow.
That would be the scene. And I would flip out. I said, my God, I can't believe it. And but not only was she, I knew from the beginning that she was going to be a writer. But I gave her ballet lessons and she became a great ballet dancer. And she's very musical. And she loves all the music in Mrs. Maisel. I truly believe that Mrs. Maisel is a musical comedy, because even in a scene that doesn't have singers and dancers and stuff, which she has in there too, the music that wraps around the scene is so joyous that it develops the scene, which one goes in hand with the other. And I believe that she got the love of music and stuff from the Children's Workshop.
And, you know, there's so much to look at. And you had said that to me before, that the music was a part of it. And so when I watched the new seasons, I listened more for the music because I'm so enthralled with the visuals and the dialogue that the music is just like, oh, there's another thing to even look at. I mean, I'm too busy looking at the hats and all her change of costume, her beautiful costumes. So, I mean, we definitely see how you influenced her. I also see a lot of you and Midge Maisel, and, you know, hashtag proud mom and proud daughter for her too. I mean, look at you still still strutting after all these years.
Well, there's that. And there's more. There's a lot of stuff. And I cannot stress it enough, my husband, because she's so much like him. That quickness of dialogue, the off that seems right off the top of her head, that all comes from my husband.
Mm.
Because he was like that. He could walk into a room and before you knew it, you were laughing. He was just, as a matter of fact, the last few years, because the business changed, all of a sudden the regular people, the big Hollywood writers and producers grew older and they were hiring younger people. And the younger people, I believe, because I'm prejudiced about this, I think they did not want the older people around because they didn't know as much as the older people. They wanted to grow up and be their own self, you know, which is understandable. It takes a really big person to understand that they don't know it all and they need, but they're so busy, it's so competitive, they're trying to show that they know it all. They don't want anybody to know their leaks in the dike, you know, or I have to ask somebody else. So in a way, my husband was so influenced my daughter. She's so much like him. The humor, the dialogue that she uses of so much like him. And of course, she grew up with him, so she heard all the stories and stuff that he used to tell.
Well, it must have been a very fun household. That's all I can say. Very fun household.
It was busy, I'll say that. And of course, we grew up in New York with Lenny Bruce.
That is very interesting because, you know, that is a real, everything else on the show is fictional. And once in a while they'll drop a name and he's a real person. So that explains why she was able to develop his character so well.
That and also the character of I don't know what his name was in Amy's show. I won't say who she fashioned it after because it's her husband, Daniel Palladino. He was a writer for many years before Amy ever met him. He was on Who's the Boss. He wrote
Another good one. Yeah.
That's a good one.
And they're a very good team.
I can't imagine the two of them in a car ride, what the banter is like.
They're very smooth. They're very cool.
Yes.
Do they write together?
No.
They do not.
From what I understand, he writes a segment, she writes her segment. I don't know the details of their combination, but that's what she told me. And I think it's a good idea because I did a show once with my husband where I choreographed the show and was in it. And I swore I would never work with him again. It's too many items that come into the mix, you know, that it has nothing to do with the two of you, but you have to deal with it all, you know.
Yes.
And I no.
Put that up on Maybin's list of marriage secrets.
And don't drive out west without a Jack.
Yes. Yes.
Well, a lot of people get divorced and meet people on, they have this wonderful relationship on a show and they fall in love because they're with each other 24 hours a day, you know, they have no other life. And then they get married and it doesn't work out. You know, it's hard. It's very, very hard.
I was wondering about what shows you're doing now.
Well, I just finished a show. When I turned 70, I was asked to do something in a show that was copied after something called the Palm Springs Follies. I don't know if you've heard about it, but it was very, very big at the time. And they used older women as dancers and singers, and they would bring on a star, you know, it was like a variety show, but they were all older women. And even the stars were older. And they got to be very, very popular. Well, there was a guy who I knew, a dancer. He had, as a matter of fact, he had done the Carol Burnett show for many, many years. He was a dancer. His name is Stan Mason. He's a wonderful dancer. Anyhow, he was going to do a show. He tried to copy it after the Palm Springs thing. So he asked me to be in it. Now, I had been working out of doing performing and everything for many, many years. And so all of a sudden I'm doing stuff again. And your question was, what am I doing now? And it developed, that show did not work out because that's another story. But anyhow, I developed, after that fell flat, I had this vision of doing a senior citizen version of Chorus Line. Because there's so many people. I was in a workshop once with the Music Center had it, and they were all people who had done many, many, many shows and had worked with many, many stars. And what happened is we were sitting around during rehearsal, and these people were telling all these stories about these stars, and the things that happened was so funny that I thought, oh my goodness, this is a show. We need to put together this show. Well, it did not work out. One girl got it. One girl got it. And so the two of us put together an act. And we played the Cinegrill in Hollywood, at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel. We were there for about a month. And then we went to see a regular show, a book show. And we said, that's what we want to do. Well, it happened that my friend decided she didn't want to do it anymore. And so Betty Garrett, I don't know if you remember Betty Garrett. She was a very, very, very big star. She worked with Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly and All the Town and many, many things. Anyhow, she was the leader of this group. And she came to me and she said, Maybin, you need to write this show for yourself. And that's what I did. At 70 years old, I started writing my own shows and doing my own shows. Wow. And I did it practically every couple of years until I wore them out. And then I finally did my last show, which was This Joint is Jumping, last month.
Oh! Oh my goodness! I didn't be able to do that. Yeah, well, I have a few things I'd like to show you. Now, can you do this?
Oh, okay. Let me see. Can you show me that again?
You got it. You got it. How about this?
Yes, Sam.
Yes.
Made this.
You
know,
what?
you're looking real good. Like no other gal I know. But I must confess that I'm so lucky to be in your show.
You and your fancy flattery, the sugary things you say. You're thinking that if you flatter me, that you're gonna win the day. So you tell me I'm real swell.
You're swell.
To ring my bell.
Ding, ding, ding.
What's the matter with me? I know you're a happy man. Oh, wonderful guy to shuffle with.
We're shuffling to beat the band.
But somehow we just don't care. So shuffle with while we pull up the chairs. Not sputtering would get you everywhere. Bye.
Will that be your last show? I don't think so.
It's going to be my last show like the one I did, because unfortunately my dancing and my health has interfered with my jumps.
I
I
understand.
have to move along like a little bit like this and tell my stories. And it's interesting because I was telling a few stories, and some of the people, as a matter of fact, Daniel's family, Daniel Pelletier's family told me, you need to talk about your stories. that's what people really like.
Yes.
I have written, started on a little biography with my friend Mitch, who is my assistant. And I'm going to take stuff from that biography and do a show.
I think that's an absolutely terrific idea. And I would love to read that, because I'm sure with all the people that you've encountered and just the whole, the whole Hollywood thing going from New York to LA. I mean, we've seen it in movies, you've actually lived it. I have a question for you. Speaking of your health though, tell us what keeps you going. Do you have any secrets to share with us about what you eat,
Yes.
you exercise, anything like that?
Ballet lessons. Ballet lessons. Every mother should give their children ballet lessons. I swear to you, I've had stuff now. A few years ago, I fell down and broke my arm. And that made, ever since then, I've been wonky, a little bit off. I think the whole system inside must have called up somehow. And I've been a little off. But when I feel like I'm gonna fall, I pull myself up like I'm a ballet dancer, and I walk straight. Eating right is necessary, as we all know, and we have to learn what is good for our bodies to eat in that situation. And weight, you need to keep your weight down. It's hard, I know, especially when you get older, because you first you want to sit down and take a nap, you have to keep your body moving. And I know they're talking about moving now, walking and things like that. It's so important. It's everything.
I appreciate that. And I think ballet is similar to yoga, and it's movement, it's balance, and it's also it's posture. And when your posture is good, you're increasing your muscle strength, you're supporting your bones. And ballet, yoga, I see them all being in the same realm, and I see how well it's benefited you. So I took ballet when I was a little tiny kid. I'd probably fall over now, but you know what? Maybe I'll go watch a ballet video one of these days.
Well, another thing is we need to support the ballet companies. They are struggling all the time. I mean, ballet theater was out here, and they had something really wonderful, a program, really wonderful, but it was so far out in the boonies that I couldn't go. And when they come, they're here for about 4 performances, with all the stuff that they have to schlep and bring in to do a performance, and the rehearsals with the orchestra and everything. I mean, it's an enormous endeavor, but it's so important. It's so important, and people should be exposed to it. They're not exposed to it. And it's
so that is, we usually ask for a charity shout out. And I think supporting the arts, supporting ballet is definitely something that you would really. Messalina, I think we're going to wrap up, but there's 4 things you wanted to ask.
Sure.
Maybin, very quick, just something to get to know Maybin, what you're doing these days.
Okay, so my first one is, what's the best thing about being a woman of a certain age?
Well, I think that you've got to have a thought of what you're going to do next. You know what I mean? It can't be just this. It has to be a continual creative process. Whatever your talents are, or whatever your likes are, you need to constantly support them, and constantly be energized by the next thing you're going to do. That's how I've survived. I'm just telling you from a personal experience. That's how I've survived. I hear a song and I think, oh, that song should be, somebody should do that song. Sutton Foster was a darling friend of mine who I did her show, Bunheads, which was another show that my daughter created. And she's in Music Man, and she's just unbelievable. I mean, what she's done is just, and now I'm so proud of her, like she's my child, because I look for everything that she does next. And I think that that's what you have to have in your head. It's not just you. It's not just you. You have to think about it as a gift. You are a gift to whatever you can contribute, you know, and people, and help people, you know, who need help, whatever you can do, you know.
Yes.
Whether they care what you say or not. Sometimes I don't give a damn, you know, but you have to want to. You have to want to have that feeling. I think the biggest problem we have is too much concentration on me.
That is true. That is
Yes.
true. That is true.
Do you have any advice for your younger self?
To make it through the next day. That's my advice. I don't know. I just, you know, as a matter of fact, when I reached 80 years old, I said to myself, what, I've done it all. This is my life. What's left? Why am I here? My time is up. My time is up. But that's not true. I found out the older you get, you can constantly learn something new. That's the main thing, is because when I did my last show, unfortunately, the show is over, because the last performance, I thought, oh, I should have done that. I should have done that. That would have made it better, you know? So if you're constantly trying to make yourself better, I don't think there's anything else you could do. And don't be hard on yourself.
Wow.
Don't be hard on yourself, because we all fail, you know?
Yep.
That's amazing advice. And then two super quick, like one word answers. What's your favorite film?
Notorious. You know who was in Notorious? Ingrid Bergman and Cary Grant.
Classic.
And it was a Hitchcock film too. If you want to rent a film, you should rent that film. That is, it's left such an impression with me that you ask me now, what's my favorite film?
Right away.
That's the wonderful thing about film, and it puts you someplace else. It takes you on a journey, you know. That's what we miss in our daily lives. You know, we want to go someplace and make us feel good.
What shows have you been binging lately?
And with an E. Have you watched that?
Not yet. It's in my list.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I guess they're not binging stuff anymore. They're doing just part season at a time now. But I could not sleep until I saw the whole thing. I mean, it was the whole season, you know, and it's so delightful. I would recommend it. I'm sure all of you would love it.
Well, that is the beauty of binging. There's so many shows like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel that we just sit there and we just go from one to the next, because
I know it, because you can't stop.
You can't
get
stop.
enough. Right. You can't
stop.
stop.
So, Maybin, that's the questions we have. We have a lot more. Maybe come back another time. But I just wanted to thank you for being here. You know, this show, we'd like to inspire women, and I like to say women of a certain age, you know, women over 45. And, you know, with the pandemic and kids leaving the house, a lot of women think about what their purpose is. And to hear you speak, you know, starting new things at 70, every day thinking about what you can do. And also you said something very key: don't be so hard on yourself. It was just a pleasure hearing from you, and you're just such an inspiration, and I'm so glad you joined us.
Well, you're so kind, and this was a pleasure for me too.
You know, and you have us all sitting very, very straight.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
we all have the pose pointed.
Yes.
As soon as you said that, I noticed all of us
You have to remind yourself to do that.
pose pointed.
I'm hearing my mother echoing, my mother who passed many years ago. I hear her echoing, don't slouch, don't slouch.
True.
I'm gonna call my mom and thank her for the dance lessons.
Good.
So that's it. That's our show for today. And as I like to say every time, every day, find some joy, give some joy. Tune in, find us on YouTube. We're soon to be on iWoman TV. Come back for some great interviews that are coming up. And have a great day. Bye.
Bye.
Hi.
Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you.
Okay.
You're a
Wonderful
delight.
meeting
You are a delight.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Maybin. That was just wonderful. Thank you so much.
Wake up with a smile.